Hi, and welcome to tonight's webinar. I'm going to give our vast majority of participants about another minute to be able to log in and join us this evening. So while we do that, we'll just sit tight for 1 minute and wait for the rest of the people to enjoy and join in. Welcome everyone to today's webinar, The Well Classroom, Increasing Student and Teacher Engagement. I'm Pam Gashler. I'm one of the instructional designers and an high impact learning experience consultant with Meteor Education. I also serve as an adjunct professor for the Global Center for College and Career Readiness. I bring today my 26 years of education experience, ranging from a classroom teacher to being at a leadership level of curriculum and instruction, as well as an instructional coach. And I want to say thank you again for taking the time to learn with me tonight, because you've all taught and worked a long, hard day. You know, one of the fabulous features that I love about doing online learning and webinars is that it brings together educators from across the country. So if you could, how about you use the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen and just do a quick share where you're from. Thank you all again for joining me this evening. I appreciate you being here and taking the time to learn. Let's start today out with an essential question. Our essential question really is, what deliberate actions can you take to influence learning experiences and the environment that nurture the next generation of innovators in your classroom? While you won't be able to exactly answer this at the end of the day or the end of this session, but we're going to kind of chip away at it and see if there's some things that you can do very deliberately tomorrow and the next day in your classroom. This learning opportunity was really designed to look through the lens of some current research that will help you identify characteristics of Generation Z and how this generation impacts teaching and learning. It's also intended to allow you to explore components of a pro-social classroom to support that well classroom, not only from a student perspective, but from a teacher perspective as well. And to allow us to intentionally design the necessary components of the environment and instruction that we need to have in place to increase student and teacher engagement. Wow, this photo is a little drab, isn't it? But I picked this one purposefully to let us activate our mental model of student and teacher engagement. Classrooms over the past 2 generations have truly come a long ways. However, I want to ask, do you think the kids in this photo look engaged? I don't. I feel the photo really represents students being maybe compliant. They're all looking forward and they're sitting straight up. And I love how they have their little hands in that ready position. Their books are out, their feet are flat, the ones that you can see. They're really just ready to learn. But we know that our classrooms today require much more because we have a different set of students inside them. I also want to challenge you to look at this photo and think, as a classroom educator, would I be engaged teaching in here? I think of maybe worksheets. I think of myself perhaps being that deliverer of information, and I'm the one doing all the work. So at the end of the day, I'm exhausted, not my students. Well, we know through some variety of research that our Generation Z, they don't really learn this way. Now looking at these photos of some more modern and current images, you notice the group of little students at the bottom in yellow love to see how they're leaning in and they're actively participating and wanting to be a part of the conversation, the content, and the learning of whatever activity is happening in that photo. And that leaning in is really one indicator that students are engaged. You've probably been in a dozen classrooms where kids are leaning back or they're kind of doing all these little odd moves in their seats. Not an indicator of student engagement, but leaning in is one of them. You notice on our other photo that the students are very directed and they have this look on their face like they're listening and they're intrigued by the academic conversation. That collaboration and academic conversation does a variety of things. Not only promotes learning, but it helps our students that are struggling learners. It helps our students that struggle with the language. It gives them another opportunity, a comfort zone to learn and improve their content knowledge. And finally, you're seeing a photo that is more aligned to our Generation Z. You noticed a height adjustable table. You can see those little collaborative shaped tables. And where they're very intentionally kind of have that indent so kids can naturally lean in and work and be a part of the conversation. The whiteboard on the back of the wall, full whiteboards for students, for teachers to show evidence of learning. And if you look at that top photo and a little more towards the right at that top photo, you'll notice that glass wall. Wow, I am engaged even just looking and excited about being in a space that resembles this photo because I can move around freely, I can work with others. I'm assuming that this little photo might even allow the opportunity for me to go out and work collaboratively with other groups. This is the direction we're moving with Gen Z students. I'd like to take a look at characteristics of Gen Z and how are they impacting teaching and learning. We keep saying and hearing and reading more articles about how different the students are that are coming to school. They're different. They don't learn like kids in the past. Well, I'd like to give you a second to think and jot. Think about what you know about this generation that's sitting in our classrooms today, and why do you think they learn differently than most of us? I'll give you 30 seconds to make at least 2 little notes on why you think this generation learns differently. All right. I hope you had enough time to think and then to jot a few comments down. But before we can really dive into Generation Z, let's look back at the past. We have generations that have fought in the World War. We have generations that have endured the Great Depression. We have generations that are anti-war. And then we have Generation X, the generation that changed because of television and VCRs and my favorite, MTV. So we've seen a great change from generation to generation. Gen X, though I'd like to point out, as we are a group of educators gathering tonight, are noted as the most highly educated generation. But then we moved into the millennials, and millennials do not like to be called millennials. They are also known as Gen Y. This is a group of kids that when they were born, and now they're young adults actually, that were exposed to the internet at early age. So we find them to be more motivated by like social media, feedback. They love all those apps and different things that they can get feedback. What do other people think? And they are also the largest generation existing today. But let's look at the characteristics that mirror that or have carried over into Gen Z. Gen Zs were born around 2000, give or take a year or two when you read an article or such. They vary from, just a year or two to the present. So when we look at that time frame, it's truly the kids that are sitting in our elementary schools today, our middle schools and our high schools, and the kids to come. They are known as digital natives. They've been connected the entire time of their lives. They were born with iPads in their hands. For those of you who have small children or even grandchildren, I'm always awed at how my granddaughter or grandson can pick up my iPad and Snapchat and FaceTime and go to different apps, which is very scary, like it was nothing before they can even read. It's amazing. Our Generation Z have really never lived in a world that's safe. They're that generation from 9/11. These are scary times politically, and because of 9/11. So they have a different feel about the world in which they live in. They are also noted as being less focused or have a lower attention span. From 8 seconds to the millennials, who were 12 seconds. I've done a lot of research in previous years on Generation Z. I think this little tidbit is still out there to be confirmed 100%. However, when I'm out in schools and I'm supporting teachers and I'm supporting change, this is a comment I really hear about this group of students is so different than the other students. They're not focused, they can't pay attention there. So we need to keep that in our forefront and be making decisions instructionally. What do I need to do for kids that have a less attention span? And another really neat feature about this group is they appreciate independence. They're going to challenge you. So even just looking at these first few characteristics of Generation Z, I, as an educator, this is a scary time. I didn't question anybody. I wasn't born with an iPad. So I wasn't, it's amazing what great things and what challenges this generation brings to our classrooms. Their use of technology, you can see on the slide noted, they use most of their technology, phones per se, for texting, playing games, and social media, all the way down to, making a phone call, which is very small in the world of media devices. And then how do we, as educators, take what we know about them and their suaviness of technology and turn it into great opportunities for kids? There's been a lot of I see lots of great things. I read about lots of great things that are happening for kids with digital devices. Lots of schools do one-to-one. They allow them to bring their own devices. I see schools letting upper grade levels use cell devices to take photos of different things, to report back, to send things to parents. So we have opportunities here that allow us to use these skills of this generation to be engaged, to want to be a part of our classrooms, and to move forward in their learning. This generation is also blessed with an entrepreneurial spirit. Love this about the Generation Z. They've been raised with Uber and Airbnbs. So it gets their creative juices going. And how can I make an honest living and even beyond that, using my own time and my own resources. And you know, when you think about knowing that they have this entrepreneurship spirit, why can't we create tasks that allow them to develop maybe a business plan? And let's even go a little farther, let's say a detailed plan, maybe posing a challenge to a group to create maybe a new service in your community that's needed. Okay, Uber already exists. So, but maybe they could create a service like an Uber that impacts the way our community functions. That would be an awesome challenge. I've been in a high school that they were in the works of restoring what I would call like an old, perhaps shut down type of a theater on like Main Street. And they were working together with community leaders to develop a plan to revive this movie theater and maybe bring back movies and opportunities for community members just to walk down there or to attend a local movie. Oh, it was powerful. They were having to step up and research and present, and in their proposal, they're promising to manage and run it. And so this generation allows for some great opportunities in school. I'm super excited about that. This is also a diverse generation, and they're positive about it. So we as educators need to be positive as well and support them as they move forward. They're also noted as being blurry. They have so much technology, they tend to struggle with that device between home, work, study, entertainment, public, private. When does it stop? They're researching something, they're finding an answer, they're Googling this, they're, you know, reporting out, they're sharing. So it's really this fine line. Their world revolves around this technology gift all day long in all aspects of their worlds. Another point that's blurry, and I had to stop and reflect on this in all my research, and it's about they're growing up in different families. And as an early childhood educator once in my life, I remember doing all those units around family. And so I had to reflect differently about that and the types of families that they're a part of, and blessed to be a type of part of a family. So we might need to approach some things differently there. I also stopped and took a deep breath about a characteristic of being overwhelmed. Time magazine reported out in a article with a group of thousands and thousands of teenagers that they really feel overwhelmed. And they feel overwhelmed with day-to-day life, like schoolwork and managing their social, you know, their little media accounts, and what is my career, and the climate, and just issues going on in the world around them. 68% of them actually feel overwhelmed. With that fact, we need to stop and again think as educators, what can we do to help our students with this sense of feeling overwhelmed? There are a variety of things in schools, and teachers are doing amazing things. And they're not only doing it just in one classroom, but even building in district-wide. And it revolves around the concept of being mindful of being overwhelmed. You know, we bring in this wellness, and it's hard to feel and be well when you're feeling overwhelmed. And that's not just a student issue, it's a teacher issue. Teachers are faced with great challenges these days. And how do we help teachers also cope, deal, accept the feeling of being overwhelmed? What would be some steps to reduce that? Some things that are out there, and I'm sure you're very aware, besides being mindful and talking about the feeling of overwhelmed, might be the use of classroom circles or restorative circles. skills, great strategy, not only for kiddos, but for teachers as well. Let's talk about how we feel in teaching and the demands of being an educator to Gen Z students, and opening up those great conversations. Because I truly believe if the teacher isn't well and the teacher isn't engaged, neither are the students. So we have to keep us teachers in mind here. Another characteristic, and you can see that we've noted some of the research facts above at the top right-hand side of the slide, but this generation also has a feel of depression and anxiety. Maybe that loneliness is a term that's tagged with it. And we're not seeing any differences across demographics. So another thing that we need to think of and be mindful in our teaching and in students learning about these types of feelings and individuality. Well, these guys have had everything for them and about them. They have playlists, they have news feeds, they have networks, they have social groups. So everything's really about them. They have learning tracks, they have learning plans, so everything's pretty focused on this group of generation students. But they also have a lot of positives. They want to make a difference and matter. And so when you think about that, that they want to matter, what projects could we create? What could we do to help them solve a problem or team up with a group of other students and think about ways that they could make a difference, either locally or globally? These are future innovators. What are we doing as teachers to nurture these future innovators? Another key characteristic, if you live a school life, is that this generation, as I said, were challengers. So they want to know why. Why am I learning this? I know all those kids that question math, like, why am I learning the Pythagorean theorem? No, I don't need to build a house. It's a common example, and why do I need to know that? And why do I need to take apart a sentence? Those common little things where they're giving you that look like, why? So if you have a suggestion for maybe some tips to help all of us, how can we help students understand the why? I personally see thousands of classrooms that have their learning aims posted all the time. However, I don't think that that's enough for this generation. They want the why, not just that I am going to think critically within my content, or I'm going to analyze 2 pieces of text. So if you have any ideas, don't hesitate to share out of how we can, as a group, help students understand why we're doing something. Go back. I think I so apologize. I think I accidentally skipped forward. Okay. It's not allowing me to go backwards. I'm so very sorry. When we look at students and their experiences, we think about what is the world that they will enter. Are they going to enter into college and then into young adults and then into their career lives? The data has showed us that 65% of the primary students in our schools today may be entering into jobs that don't even exist yet. So we really have to be, as educators, mindful and intentional about then what skills can we give them and help them master that will help them be successful in all of these opportunities, whatever they may be, such as collaboration, creativity, good communication skills. Those are just a few skills that might help a student be ready for a future job. The other statistic on this slide points out that Generation Z students may have as many as 40 jobs in 10 different careers. I'm going to put that back into a perspective of myself. Okay, so I'm in education. I've been a teacher. Okay, I've gone on to leadership and administrative roles. And while I had new things to learn, I found it easier because it was within the field of education. But our students in our classrooms today may go into 10 different careers. And what would that take for me to go into instructional design, or maybe into a banking corporation, or marketing, or whatever my passion takes me? So we really have to think and make sure that we are equipping our students with the skills needed to retool. This is some data that talks about student engagement. So you can see at the top that it comes from Gallup. But we see that in 5th grade that kids are genuinely engaged and excited about their learning opportunities, and then it levels down. And that's not new information to us. What I find exciting about this information is the percentage of kids not engaged or actively disengaged. So it's what can we do as educators to perhaps reduce those numbers of students? Perhaps a task, a project? Could it be our environments? Are they drab? Are they overcrowded? I don't know. This webinar is going to continue to push that topic. What can we do more intentionally to help kids be engaged? This is also one of my passions. I feel passionate about kids wanting to come to school and wanting to be there and wanting to learn and wanting to be part of a cohort group and part of a learning community. And it saddens me to think of all the reasons they don't want to be. So this is also one of my passions, is helping every student be excited to come to learn. And if you've been a student who was not excited to learn, or you have a child personally who is not excited to learn, you can certainly relate with that. What we do know about Generation Z is they want to align their school experiences to future jobs. And when you look at the results of this student survey, it's clear there's a growing need for reform in both environments and experiences for students. I think back about all the things that are going on in schools. Great things are happening. Great things are happening. And if they're not, these might be good initiatives of, hey, maybe we could try one of these things and then the next year 2 of these things. Perhaps starting with collaborative tasks, where my teacher intentionally plans for me to work with a group of my classmates to produce a product. Robotics and coding. Kids are so talented and so smart, and this pulls in their love of technology. And it's amazing the little things that they can create to go over a bridge, or creating a bridge, or upward and backwards, and even coding. It starts in kindergarten, doing some of the Osmos kits. So all these opportunities can go all the way from kindergarten to 12th grade. Project-based learning, great opportunities to mirror real world to school. Entrepreneurship, maker spaces. Think about a maker space that has sewing machines. Picture if a student could actually connect with a designer, either face-to-face or virtually. What that could do to promote a student's learning, confidence, success, passion, and purpose. Amazing. We need to open up our minds to all these opportunities for kids. There's entrepreneur programs out there, learning labs. These are just a few of the great ways we can align school and future jobs. The two images here I want to point out because they really hit that mirroring of real world. The photo on the left is a WeWork space. So you can see that the furniture is comfortable and it allows space for kids or adults to come together and work. And it's not like a cubby, or I'm going to my office today and I might pass somebody and say, hey, or I'm not confined in my classroom, or environments of that as such. The image on the right-hand side is actually one of our meteor environments with children that have this collaborative space to go and to work and to do what they need to do to document and extend their learning. You can see a group working on the whiteboard. You can see some back there working with technology and devices. And then you have a student up front. I need to read. I need to get my individual learning accomplished. This is a great example of how our environments can mirror workspaces. I've talked a lot about Gen Z and how amazing they are, because there's a lot of little innovators sitting in our schools this day. But I'm kind of shift our thinking to examining the wellness concepts and some things that maybe we can do within our classrooms to support a well student, a well environment, a well teacher. At Meteor, we use the term pro-social classroom. And we numerous times are out in schools and we are doing a needs assessment around, is this classroom or school or district a pro-social classroom or district? And what would be some next steps to build this wellness within these environments? And we look at the 6 things listed here on the screen, like proximity. If I'm a teacher and I'm sitting at my desk and I'm not interacting with students, that's not really good for me or for them. Or if I'm in a row, like that very first image I shared with you, and I'm sitting independently and I kind of have to lean over to talk to my classmate, or I'm not allowed to talk to my classmate at all. So it's really that proximity. Are we clustered where we can talk and communicate about content easily? Can I access my teacher easily for support in the learning process? Also, is this classroom, school, and or district, is it safe? Is it safe intellectually? Can I learn? Can I ask questions and feel like it's okay to say, I don't know the answer? And how does that happen? And why would I solve a problem that way? Or even basic, what were the directions? Am I safe to ask the questions I need to ask to move to the next step of learning? And physically, am I safe? Is this the best place for me? Can I come here and not be bullied or have connections with other students? And am I emotionally safe? Still building in. Can I say things? Can I talk with others? Can I share? Can I collaborate? Building this whole wellness concept. Inclusion. Think of inclusion not more so through a special ed perspective, but does every child feel included? Do I have a home-based group? Do I have a network of people I can rely on and go to help me learn and to help me grow even just as an individual? Choice is a key component of a pro-social classroom. Do I have a choice? Do I have a choice in what I learned today? Do I have a choice in where I sit? Do I have a choice in who I work with? I don't know. But think about how good you feel. Even as adults, if we go to a training session, it's like, yeah, I want to sit over there with my friends or my colleagues, or, oh, I want to sit by that person because they have great thoughts and ideas. But I'm motivated that I have a choice to do something. And this motivates students that they have this choice. Also in a pro-social classroom, we look at success. Were my lessons scaffolded to allow me to be successful? Were my tasks that I was presented with challenging, but yet at a level that I can actually achieve this and feel successful? There's nothing worse than going, oh, I don't know what to do. I can't do this. Because we know through research that our students give up pretty quickly. And as teachers, we're pretty quick to go, oh, here's what you need to do, honey. Well, we need to let them struggle productively through that. But we need to set them up for true success and build their learning. And productive language. Does this classroom allow the opportunity for me to talk academically about the content? Does it allow me to learn new vocabulary words, new content? So can I share my thinking either via writing or communication, or can I do it digitally through a little broadcast? But I have this opportunity to share my thoughts and my thinking, which builds my language. And imagine going back to that pro-social. When your kids feel good in your room, you feel good in your room as well. So all those great components, don't hesitate to reach out to one of us if you're interested in an assessment around a pro-social classroom. But I want to take this last section and focus on design. We're going to go through it relatively fast because some of this will not be new to you. And so I want to use it just as a reminder. What can I do deliberately for my classroom design? Research has been done, things to consider. It's the colors used, complexity, choice, and we'll kind of touch on those really quickly. Color, look at these vibrant colors. Who wouldn't be engaged to be in this setting? And the options and the choice and the feeling, but it's welcoming, it's inviting. Teachers are engaged, students are engaged. Complexity really looks at the classroom as equaling out that stimulation. Can't be too much, but it can't be too little. So sometimes you'll see classrooms where the walls are crowded or there's so many materials in there and the space is already small that I can't function well, that it's more of an organized chaos. So what can we do as teachers to make this space inviting and complex yet stimulating for learning? Choice. Do I have a choice? We talked about this in the pro-social classroom aspect. You can see in this image that kids can sit on something soft, something hard, traditional chair. They can, so great way to get kids engaged. Flexibility in the content, flexibility in teaching styles, maybe even flexibility in the activities that I could move my space around so I could be a group of 2, then a group of 4, then a group of 5. Which ties so nicely into learning zones. For example, I've got 5 up here, but I want to just hit a couple this evening, like a campfire. What's your mental model of a campfire? Oh, it's a group of people sitting around, traditionally in a circle, and they're sharing ideas or learning from somebody else. And that learning can be from another student. It doesn't always have to be from an adult. So think about where can you structure in your classroom an opportunity for kids to come together and discuss and share and learn, as well as watering holes. It's kind of an informal space where they can share information and discover. They can act as a learner. They could maybe get things they need, they can gain ideas, kind of builds that culture of learning. One of my favorites is the cave, because sometimes I just want to get my tasks done and I need to learn quietly. So think about, can I create a space where I can learn creatively in my classroom quietly and it's safe? The swamps where you can get a little sticky, and of course the plains is where we can spread out and really work. And I want to challenge all of you on the call tonight that you may not have this space in your classroom, but where do we have these opportunities within our school to make these kind of zones happen? Think about a media center, think about outside. That's another one of my challenges. Connections. Are you feeling connected in the classroom? It's a key component of engagement. We as teachers, we need to intentionally plan for opportunities for kids to be connected to a group. Maybe we're a group for a week, a month, a project, 9 weeks, but we need to be able to work together to accomplish tasks. You all know about light and the importance of light, and it increases our learning and our memory. That's all in that brain research. I have to share, I really believe in the light and the natural light and what that does for learning and engagement, because I personally experienced this. As a Title I teacher, I got large class, got reduced to go to this, what I call a upscale janitor's closet, and it didn't have a window. It was very drab, very, yeah, just not a great environment. And every day I tried to make it like, hey, and be, all happy about it. But the environment itself, with no light and no areas for movement, I had to quickly become very creative to make great things happen for the kids that came to me every day. So a few additional aspects that we like to think about when we're thinking about the environment is integrated technology. Because this is a true characteristic of our Generation Z, and thinking about how you use it, just basically, sparingly, or is it seamless? Our students use it seamlessly, so we can think about that. Mobility. Generation Z students, they don't learn by sitting in one spot. They need to move during class or the school day. They need that opportunity in their brain for brain breaks. So consider mobility in your classroom. Modalities, what's your learning style? I think it's okay if I learn best by listening and talking and doing, or maybe I need to have those separate little zones. What can you do to set your classroom up for engagement and for wellness? Because all of these pieces tie together so closely. Oh, ergonomics. We try to think about the furniture pieces that we put inside classrooms, and they're very intentional as well. Do they support comfort and posture? And here's just a visual to show you that students who have correct posture have better brain functioning and more air to their brains, and that oxygen's moving. And so that increases the ability to learn and retain information. So couple that with engagement and great things will happen. So what does all of this mean for a well classroom? Let me share with you, I'm going to share with you a quick 2-minute video that kind of pulls all of this together from a school's perspective.
Our core purpose and our core values really stem around innovation and supporting kids and finding their passion and personalized learning, and most importantly, student collaboration. So it was really important to us to create learning spaces that promoted students working together and creating, and teachers being able to be really flexible in the moment based on where the learning was taking kids.
For students within the classroom have space and opportunities to collaborate. The flex spaces allow for students in multiple grade levels to come together for projects and work together. So, for example, second grade partnering with first grade, and even eighth graders partnering with kinders and with first grade. These flex spaces really support collaboration among our K-8 continuum here at Thunder Vista.
At work and in college, you're always going to have to collaborate with other people in order to keep your job or keep going good, and this environment allows that.
And we're getting kiddos ready for their career in college and beyond, and we may not even know what that looks like, but we know in this day and age that jobs require teamwork and the ability to collaborate and communicate.
Thinking of the old Ford Model T, that car it worked great for what they knew at that time as well, right? The wooden spoke wheels. But over time we've learned and we've improved our technological craft along the way, and so yeah, we don't operate on wooden wheels anymore.
Wow. So for me, when I have watched that video again and again, I think about the young student. It was the girl in there, and she says, at work and in college, you will always be having to collaborate with others to keep your job or to going good. And this environment allows me to do that. And I thought, that is great. She's seeing that connection. I also applaud the administrators in that video for saying, we don't operate on wooden wheels anymore. So true. So I'm challenging you and leaving you this evening to think about the pieces that we need to have in place to make an environment for Gen Z students, as well as engaged students and teachers. I have a few deliberate actions that I would like you to consider for next steps. You can do them tomorrow or the next week, but assess your upcoming lessons and determine 2 immediate actions you could make to improve the engagement of Generation Zs. How about you walk your campus or take a look in your own classroom and kind of key in on some of those pro-social components? And then assess your learning environment and determine if there's maybe 1 or 2 actions that you could take to improve the environment that would be aligned to those experiences that you are planning and doing so diligently for kids to make a difference. Well, I want to thank all of you for taking time to spend with me tonight. And if you have any more questions about the research or the increase in student and teacher engagement, feel free to reach out to Sebastian Sanchez at meteor.com. And again, thank you for taking the time to be with me. Good evening. Bye.